Come, follow us
on our journey to get a low-budget
DIY
feature film from script
to screen and beyond.
Nobody knows who we are.
Look at yourselves. Realistically, nobody's going to give you that money. Nobody. You don't know who the fuck you are. It's a complete risk. You are unknown.
This is our first feature film, something we're going to do together. You're going to get it warts and all.
For now, you're just some pair of idiots like everyone else.
Never wait for permission. You just have to start.
Give yourself something impossible to do, and then just find the bloody way of making that thing happen.
This is DIY Cinema Cult.
Hello, Mark.
Hello, mate. How are you? Blimey. Long time, no chat.
When did we do
December.
December, okay,
Yeah, back in December. It's funny because it's we didn't get to do one of our Christmas episodes that we've traditionally been doing over the last couple of years. But I guess for anyone who's kind of been listening to this podcast, you poor people who've stuck with it, and there are some people who've stuck with us, which is
millions and millions of them.
Not quite millions, but there is a certain number of people who do kind of come back for more. You gluttons for punishment. For those people who have stuck with us, it's like from the very start we said this is a podcast that's going to chart us trying to get feature films made in a completely DIY indie way, and we're not ourselves podcasters, are we really? So we don't kind of follow that kind of podcast code of, right, we have to release an episode once a week and we have to tick these boxes. It's kind of, we just check in when we've got stuff to say or when we have time to say it, I guess. So
yeah, that's our excuse anyway for being
our excuse
lazy.
Yeah. For not doing any episodes for absolutely ages.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right that basically we're getting on with the job that the podcast is there to document, right? We're getting on with trying to get our films made, as well as life, but that's what we've been doing.
Ladies and gentlemen, please bring your drinks to your seats. Settle down for tonight's entertainment. Introducing to you right now on saxophone, Mr. Aaron Trinder. That's right. And playing jazz flute tonight with his ass, Mr. Marc Hardman. Boy, that kid can blow. Settle down, boys and girls. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the DIY Cinema Cult. All right, let's go.
Your Film Free Party has been almost like a whirlwind tour of the country, building up audiences and fans for the film around. Tell us a little bit about how it's been going in recent months.
Yeah, so we're kind of, I suppose, halfway through our film festival run. So, I mean, for people who don't really know what the heck that means, although I'm sure most people do, basically, with a film, what you tend to do is you sort of finish it, at least up to a certain level, and then you really test the waters for a good year, hopefully nationally, but also ideally internationally. So you show it in front of audiences in festivals in a kind of way to spread the word, but also a way to kind of gauge audience reaction, to get a sense of kind of, is the film connecting with people, and also in a way to kind of really feel what it's like in front of a lots of different types of audiences, So we kind of, I think we did our last podcast, or one of the last podcasts, where we were at the premiere, which was in November last year as part of the Dock and Roll Film Festival, and we went on to do over 25 UK screenings as part of Dock and Roll, which the majority of was sold out, amazingly.
Fantastic.
So it did, it did a lot of, we did a lot of Q&As all over the country. We were in pretty much every part of the country, Scotland, Wales, and we've also sort of been in Ireland, in Dublin. And it's kind of been a fantastic kind of experience. We've been kind of moving into international. So we've showed it in a few film festivals in France, in Spain, in Italy, which was a very good experience at a festival called CU Sound in Turin, where I met one of my heroes, documentary maker extraordinaire Julian Temple. We sat and had lunch together, which was
fantastic.
yeah, that was quite a thrill. I think I came
Amazing.
across as a proper fan. I was like, oh, oh hi, how
Fanboy.
are you? Yeah, and my favorite one of your films is Filth and the Fury. I was but it's really fun, just sort of because he was there showing a whole series of his films throughout the day, and then in one of the screens, and then in the big screen, my film showed, and I did a Q&A. So that was quite an interesting one, screening alongside Julian Temple, and it was also an interesting one doing a Q&A with a translated Italian audience as well, because obviously you get asked a question, you kind of nod politely, and then somebody translates that back into English for you, and you respond in as sort of natural and as kind of off the cuff kind of way, and then they translate it back to the audience,
Yeah.
which waits and then nods, and it was like, oh,
Yeah, it's very strange. I had one of those experiences in Poland with a film.
yeah,
And it is a very odd experience because you're right. You do have those pregnant pauses of the translation being passed over to the audience.
yeah,
Then
lots of
you,
nodding.
yeah, and then you getting your chance to reply to a question, and you finish your answer to the question to just complete silence, and then
Yeah.
maybe some kind of vacant nods, and then it gets translated. It is very strange. It's a strange way of doing it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm sure everybody got something from it, and that they're used to it by now. But
Mm.
what it took away a little bit, although I had the most amazing kind of translator who could remember no matter what I was rambling. I was blown away by his ability to translate. But it took away a little bit of that banter, that interaction that you sort of get sometimes with a Q&A when people ask questions and you can fire back, and there's a kind of proper interchange. This was a little bit more formal, but
Yeah.
it was still a fantastic experience. And then shortly after being in Turin, we went to probably the biggest festival that we'll go to, which was CPH Docs in Copenhagen. So
Nice.
that was a whole nother level in a way, because it's a mainstream high end, probably in the top 5 documentary festivals in the world. And that was very interesting, especially coming from the DIY angle that we are,
Mm.
because suddenly you're in the room with people who are, big state broadcast funders, and films that have had $1 million budgets, some films
Mm.
that have kind of been funded through, I suppose there's this sort of, there's the way that we've done it, which is by hook or by crook through DIY means. Then there's the kind of
Mhm.
middle way, which you actually, we'll talk about a little bit later. But lots and lots of co-funding going on across different countries through most of the state and funding bodies. So we saw a lot of films when there. One of the perks of being part of the film festival was being able to go and watch lots of films for free. I think we saw like 9 films or something.
Mm.
And it was very interesting always seeing how they'd all been funded, because some of them are funded by, Screen Scotland, Arte, Doc
Yeah.
Society, the Italian Film Board, basically huge swathes of different funding
Mm.
from different kinds of network or broadcast or state or I suppose kind of public service types of funding bodies, none of which we've obviously had access
Interesting.
to.
Where were they holding it? Was it all over the city, or was it out of the film school, or?
It was so they had one main festival hub which had a cinema, and but
Mm.
that was tended to be where we would congregate and we would go to talks. Saw a fantastic film about Brian Eno there, which is very interesting and innovatively made in this kind of generative style. So
Mm.
the idea is that you never see the same film twice. And we
Okay.
also saw a music documentary about Peaches, which again was quite interesting. She was there, and so we did
Great.
quite a bit of hanging out afterwards and meeting people. But it was
Mm.
basically all over the entire city. If you had a free hour and a half in your diary, you could just look down the list of maybe 200, 300 films that were on and go, oh, I quite fancy this film that's a reprint of a Super 35 film that was shot in 1970 about a Nigerian in San Francisco in the hippie 60s. You know, let's go and watch that. You know, it was that was a film called Bushman, by the way, which was amazing. So yeah, it was a brilliant opportunity to catch up on loads and loads of different films, and also get a sense from our perspective, the DIY perspective, of how projects have come to life.
You are listening to the debut feature film podcast. This is DIY Cinema Cult.
What I've been looking into, part of the film festival run, what it gives you is a bit of headspace to start thinking about the next bit, which is obviously distribution. And you know, I've been having conversations with, I suppose, traditional distributors, or I've also been having conversations with people offering their sort of skills as sales agents. It's very hard at this stage, because obviously we still need funding for licensing, to kind of sign on the dotted line, as it were, with anybody, because we aren't fully cleared for anything beyond film festivals in terms of music licenses and archive licenses, which are very expensive. So we're kind of a bit in limbo, but at the very least I'm having lots of conversations about how other people have done it. And what's interesting is that currently the industry is undergoing a massive, great big shift, because the power of the streamers has meant that both talent and funding has moved up the chain, if you like, up the pyramid, to the streamers, who are not really commissioning projects of a, I suppose, more mid-range or lower end tier. They're commissioning and funding projects which would only be considered kind of high end or commercial dead certs. You know, and in the documentary world, that tends to mean true crime, celebrity, and sport. Funnily enough, those are the three things which basically get funding documentary wise. Everything else is so far down the list, they're not interested. So then you've got the middle bracket, which is when I went to CPH Docs, a lot of the talks were, you know, people in that middle bracket, which was, you know, state funders, people who were in funding organizations. And there was a sense of crisis, actually, in that middle. And of course, then there's me and the likes of you coming from this totally DIY angle, going, look, we're going to make it work somehow. We're going to find our way. And in the end, part of it is to do with a kind of a sort of illusion that's been created, which is that certain platforms have more reach than others. So, for example, people are willing to pay to subscribe to Netflix because there is a certain amount of content on there that they want. People expect, obviously, to get other things for free. So they expect that Amazon Prime, yes, you might have a few things that you buy, but once you subscribe to it, you're expecting a lot of free stuff, right? Other models are going to, you know, for example, the Apple TV and also Amazon as a sort of aggregator, as in a place where films are held, which you can then either buy on a pay-per-view basis, and maybe that starts at a very high price. So maybe when it's a premiere, it's 15 quid. And then 3 months later, it'll be you can rent it as well as buy it. And then eventually, maybe a year, maybe 2, maybe 3 years later, you'll be able to watch it for free on one platform or another. Maybe it appears even on iPlayer, or it appears on another kind of platform. And it's a weird thing when you think about it, because really, what are all of these platforms? They're all effectively the same thing. They're all effectively a streaming site with an interface. That's all they really are. Now Netflix has obviously elevated itself because it's become a studio, because it's making original material that you go to buy. But there's a lot of the material that's on Netflix is just stuff they've bought, and it just sits on their platform. You might not even know it's there. You've got to actively look for it to find it. maybe it will get in the recommendation list, as in recommended next documentary. Same with Amazon, same with, and then other sorts of platforms like, say, Mubi or the BFI player. Their role is kind of, again, they're just a streaming platform. The technology is really no different, but what they are is curators. So they have a certain amount of material that they're saying, we only choose good stuff. So you come to us for kind of, this type of material, a more arty kind of material. But in the end,
they're the trusted curators that you that's what you're paying for. Yeah.
But in the end, the technology is actually no different than streaming from YouTube, Vimeo, or it's very similar. Anyway, let's say it's very similar. So there feels for the indie kind of the world, there feels to be because obviously all of these getting onto all these different platforms has all sorts of costs, challenges. Not everybody gets on them because there's a certain amount of curated element. And there's two sides to it. One is the fact that where do people consume their films? Now, the older generation, I would say, they sit at the sofa and they watch possibly linear TV. Maybe they've got a set-top box, cable, whatever, Sky. And they watch, what's on BBC Two. Or they might watch iPlayer, which is obviously non-linear TV. Or they maybe start to watch on-demand type stuff through their set-top box on their sofa through Netflix, and they've got loads of subscriptions is the model there. Younger people, well, they might watch it on an iPad, they might watch it on their phone, they might watch it on their laptop, and they're not so wedded to the sofa. A student might watch a film sat in their bedroom on their laptop. So they could watch it anywhere. They could source it from anywhere. They could source it from a very affordable streaming platform like Vimeo or what have you.
Yeah.
So for the indie, the question is kind of, where do you put your eggs? Because there's so many baskets and they're all kind of somehow attracting different audiences, but the technology behind it is actually largely the same. So and there are places that you can, self-distribute. So there's an entity called Film Hub, for example, where you can upload it, and it will do its damn best to spread that as far as it possibly can, taking a cut from any kind of income that you get. And some people are apparently doing very well on that sort of platform. There's also the model which is arriving from America, which is advertising video on demand, AVOD, which is where you can upload to these platforms, or you can submit through an aggregator, and then you're paid effectively through advertising. Well, that's very similar to YouTube. We're in this weird world of there's actually lots of opportunities in there, but there's this plethora of platforms. Some people are subscribed, so in some ways they're locked in. And then there's all these other kind of free ways to consume media. So and then there's the traditional ways, the kind of linear television, which still has some power and weight. So it's sort of like, where is the world that the distribution kind of, because for the moment, the time being, still the distributors are way in power, and the indie filmmakers are still struggling to find that place, but there's potential.
So what were people saying at these festivals that you're going to, particularly maybe like Copenhagen? What was there any ideas about what the future could possibly be for indies?
Well, I think at CPH there were a lot of people who were in that middle, that kind of broadcast and traditional, I suppose, linear television kind of funding areas, who are all basically saying we're in deep trouble.
Right.
The independent film is in deep trouble. The normal model of funding is in deep trouble. But for me, I was like, well, actually, no, you're talking about this middle way, which I agree is really under threat from streaming. But is there a way for the indie, the truly independent like us and like others, to, in some ways, kind of find a new way of doing things? And I really and I don't know what it is,
Mm.
because if I knew it about it, I'd have done it, and I'd have been already going, "Hey, this is how to do it, guys."
Yeah.
But it does feel that there's, it takes a lot of work because there's a lot of self-marketing. But I'm finding that already with film festival screenings. I'm still, hammering it out there on Instagram, hammering it out there on Facebook, still doing a lot of marketing actually myself, as well as the partners we've had, such as Doc and Roll, who've done a great job, and the festivals themselves. But you're still really trying to drum up interest personally. So imagine you have a marketing kind of network that's pretty strong of your own, and then you find the right platform.
Yeah, it almost feels like there needs to be a kind of an what SBTV did for music and garage music and stuff. That guy who set up, I'm going to forget his name, but he set up that kind of on the YouTube channel that
Yeah.
just blew up, and he ended up discovering, Ed Sheeran as well. He wasn't tied down particularly exclusively to garage music, but
Yeah.
he just found a massive audience and just made loads of money because there was so much content coming to him, so much people wanted to show themselves and show their work and their music and their talent, that it just drew so much attention that it just started to generate money. And it was almost as if there was some kind of platform where these low to middle indie films, documentaries could come to.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it comes down to connecting with your audience. So
Yeah.
we've kind of on the music side recently, we've obviously people may not remember, but we used to release and record music, and obviously it was all vinyl back in the noughties. But we've started to put all of that back up again on Bandcamp. Now, Bandcamp is perfect for the particular audience that consume this kind of stuff, because it's generally DJs wanting to download high quality versions of what were vinyl or what is new releases, so they can DJ them, play them out. But maybe they'll also play it on, but Bandcamp has a kind of a player. It's a niche, but it's a niche that's very passionate, and the split that you get based on the fee that you charge is way better than the streaming platforms, like exponentially better. It's 85% or something like that, So if there was an equivalent of Bandcamp, but with a reach of a streamer in some way, a passionate audience with a streaming platform and a kind of pay-per-view or a kind of buy-to-own type system, you could really imagine that shaking the industry up.
Saw a pretty good example of the kind of film you're talking about the higher end of the pyramid getting all the funding, and it was a film called American Symphony, and I think it was nominated for a couple of Oscars recently. It's about a musician called Jean-Baptiste. I don't know if you know him. He's American. So I had no idea really who he was. Fair enough, but it kind of goes to show you that I think he's a big name in the United States, but not so much beyond that. But still, regardless of that, the basic storyline is he's like the band leader of one of these big American Saturday night TV shows. So he's like the guy who's kind of sat by the desk and he's with the band. And so he's kind of a musical prodigy who became a celebrity overnight when he got chosen to be the band leader for this particular TV show. He got nominated for a ton of Grammys, maybe a year or two ago. And in that same year, his wife, who had been struggling with a cancer diagnosis, was going through chemo. So it was almost like the poles of my life are, in one aspect, I'm reaching the pinnacle of this, but in this aspect, my life is kind of going, swinging this way. It promised to be, the trailer looked amazing. And unfortunately, when I watched the film, it was kind of fell flat. And I think it was just because not because I didn't know who he was. If you watch a documentary and it's engaging, you quickly learn who that person is and you get it. You kind of get it. But I think it was just something to do with him as a character, as a personality. It didn't kind of deliver that emotional clout that the trailer was hoping for. And then sure enough, in the credits at the end, the exec producers are Michelle and Barack Obama. So I was like, wow. So there you go. So that's kind of the top end of that's the kind of, and it was a Netflix exclusive. So that's the kind of thing you're talking about, isn't it? That top end.
Yeah. And of course, what the traditional, the big budget kind of projects have is the ability to market it to people that aren't inside one audience. So, for example, you watched it, and you actually didn't even know who he was, and that's because they marketed it successfully enough. It came up on the recommendations list.
Yeah,
and Netflix are always going to hero films that they've spent money on on their recommendations. So it's very unlikely that you'll accidentally stumble across an obscure film about free parties in the UK and Europe, or a film about two brothers kind of going up a mountain, unless they've got a vested,
even less so,
unless they've got a vested reason, to push it, because they've got to make their money back. So their power is the recommendation engine, and you've got to know what you're looking for otherwise. And actually, let's face it, we've all done that thing, particularly in our later years. The fact that you often turn on the telly, kind of, oh, let's just watch something late at night, and you have that annoying half an hour of flicking around trying to find something. Oh God, there's nothing. I don't know. And it's partly because the recommendations aren't really they're not getting it for you. They're pushing their thing that they think you'll like, but actually, that they're not necessarily doing it for you, they're doing it for them.
Yeah, it's a very strange feeling. Like, I think I was laughing with you the other day about how, when you set out on a feature film project, you get lots of people telling you, you should get a star of some description in there. Yeah, you should get genre movies will do better. If you have a horror or a gangster film or whatever, a zombie film, that's going to do better than a straight drama or a comedy. And of course, because at the start of Old Man, I wasn't ever considering it necessarily as even being a feature film. So I thought, well, I'm just going to do whatever I want, and then I don't have to worry about the marketing side of it, because it's going to go nowhere in particular. It's just for us to have something to do and to activate ourselves in, and to have the experience of making something long form. But now that I have almost a finished feature film, and I'm about to do the next step, which is trying to get it in front of people or to get it sold or what have you. Now I really wish I had a zombie movie or a gangster film, or I had, like, I think I joked to you, I wish I had Danny Dyer in a gangster movie or something, but because that would just make it easier. The next step would be easier. But of course, in many respects, for Old Man, my expectations for it, what it's going to do in the next stage, is incredibly low, not out of any kind of modesty or anything, but you just have to be realistic. Look at exactly what you've got. What it did do, what this film always was, it had a job to do, basically, pure and simply, to open up a little door, or to open up a conversation with somebody that would help us get the next one made. And plain and simple, that's what it was. I'm under no illusions that it's going to get into any kind of release, or even get into necessarily any streaming service. It just had that very specific job to do.
Well, I think don't do it down too much, because let's face it, there's a lot of shit that you end up watching.
I'm still going to try it. I'm still going to put it out there for everything. I'm still going to enter it into as many festivals as I can. I'm going to I'm going to try and get it sold. Absolutely, I still will. But I think I'm not going in thinking this has to be.
No, I think what you've got, and it'd be great to hear a bit more about how you are sort of along the sort of process as well. But what you have is is in a way something you've made very affordably. So anything that kind of happens from here and the sort of financial side is all a bonus in a way. Hopefully you can make your money back and make a little bit of a splash and get some attention and some eyes. And I think, having seen the last version, that you definitely got a really good chance of that, because it's got real charm. I think once you've kind of crafted the sort of musical side and the the kind of sort of all of the nice bit, the real finishing bit, I think it's going to feel like a really kind of, it's certainly going to feel a heck of a lot higher end production wise than you certainly did put into it. And I think it's got so much charm and humor that it's going to find an audience if we can, get it out there in the right way.
Yeah,
But
I hope so.
How,
I hope so.
how is it going anyway? Whereabouts are we?
Well, it's at a funny stage. My office is is a tip at the moment because I'm in the middle of changing Macs and kind of updating my system here and making myself a bit future proof. And obviously I'm going to be doing DaVinci, starting up on DaVinci here for the final edit push. So bit of an upgrade going on, but also we sent the edit to quite a few people, you yourself as well, fed back on it. Thank you very much. And so based on that feedback, we're doing a bit more of a structural tweak on the edit before we get any deeper into the fine cut.
Yep.
In particular, we sent it to a guy called Chris Wadsworth, who is acting as kind of like a mentor to Melissa, our editor. And he's a super, super experienced TV comedy editor.
Oh, great.
He used to cut Only Fools and Horses and Blackadder and Ab Fab. And
wow.
Terry and June.
Wow.
That's how he started. So he's very specifically, I guess, hour TV editor, but still you don't take anything, you don't take anything lightly from someone with his kind of credentials. But he had some very drastic edit changes, actually.
Wow. Okay.
His simple thing was get to the cottage faster. So get to the hill, get to the countryside faster. And at the moment, there's a lot of stuff going on with the brothers go to the pub and then they go back to Drew's flat, and Drew's in the doctors at the start and Chris Wadsworth was like, right, cut out the doctors, don't have the pub scene at all. Cut the dinner scene at the Drew's house in half. And we were like, wow. And at first I hated all of these ideas, obviously, but we went back and did them just to have a look. And to my great agony and disappointment, it kind of worked really well. And the flow and the speed of things was much snappier. But for me personally, there's a couple of little bits of information that are now not there, which we kind of need, and I really want to have in there. So I think we will reinstate some of those scenes, but they will be a fraction of their current length. Like the doctor surgery will be half what it is. It's a short scene anyway. That'll be half. The pub will be a quarter of what it is, maybe less. Because just the simple act of getting them in the car quicker, getting them on the road quicker, helped so much. So although it wasn't the kind of feedback we wanted to hear, we did action it and have a look at it, and it did work. So you should always, any indie filmmakers out there, as hard as it is to hear feedback on your beloved project, you should always take it to heart and maybe even try it out, if you've got the time. Which, if you're an indie filmmaker in post, you have all the time in the world, you might as well try those things out, because it is gonna drastically change the structure of the film as it stands, and improve it as well.
DIY Cinema Club.
We've had a similar quandary, I suppose, in that we've had quite an interesting response from one of the potential distributors, who basically said, yeah, look, it's great, we love it, but for international audiences it would need to be much shorter. And I was like, okay, how much is much shorter? And they're talking about half an hour shorter.
Shit. Yeah.
So it's like, okay. So right, what does that leave? And a bit of me is obviously reluctant, because we've gone this far. I can see a 15-minute short, but half an hour is like, oh, okay. But maybe that's something for down the line. Maybe that's something in documentary terms. It's okay to have multiple versions. One maybe that's more UK based, one that's maybe more internationally focused, that could be quite significantly shorter. But it does throw those questions into play, doesn't it? I mean,
it really does. And my advice would be, do it, have a go, but do it with it in your mind thinking, I'm going to cut it that way, but I'm not going to stick with it.
Yeah, Yeah,
and just
experiment.
Just take out the meat cleave and go wham, and then just watch it, and then you might find that, oh, actually,
yeah,
there's something in the flow here I like. It's not right. I need to reinstate some bits here. But
yeah,
it might just give you something, an idea of
yeah.
flow, that alternative flow to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so how what is your next phase? You're going to put some things back in maybe, and then
The idea was that I finished with Melissa as editor, and I carry on with Da Vinci here in my office. But Melissa's going back to have another go through now because the edit's a bit more drastic that we're applying. So Melissa's back on it for a bit. We're going to try some. I'm actually going to do a call with her this evening, see how we come back from this kind of butchery cut, how we kind of reinstate some things, and what the final structure may roughly look like. So she's going to do a bit of that, and then once that's done, then I start on the fine cut stuff here in Da Vinci. So that's where we are, and I think we're getting Dre back in on the sound.
great.
The music's kind of picking up communication with them again. So it's just, I think now once we start getting into Da Vinci, I feel like it's going to start moving quite quickly. But up until now, as well, it's a very drawn out, protracted experience just because we're just doing it on no money. I've been having fun doing like other little short films as well. I did my 12 Spells films, little short films, just like a little film project. Because while I was still waiting for this to pick up again, just doing little film projects has been fun.
So tell us a little bit about those. I was watching them the other day. Quite a very nice story behind them.
Yeah, so I think I said it on a previous podcast. So it's an old tape I found I made 12 trash films, and I recently found them, and they kind of entertained me, and I kind of got in my head that I had to make another set of 24 years later from the last set, and that in some way communicated with or referenced those previous films. And so it's quite fun doing that, because you kind of feel like you're in communication or communion with your old self making those films years and years ago. And I made them on a old Super 8 and a dictaphone, and in a similar way I was using my cameras now, which are much more high tech, but I also found myself recording bits of audio on my iPhone, which I guess is the modern equivalent of having a little dictaphone. I even shot some bits on iPhone. Wow. So it was just getting yourself completely free of this big, heavy tech production that we weren't heavy tech production, but the thing is, in Old Man, we committed ourselves to shooting on an Arri. So you instantly become less mobile, flexible and mobile, even down to doing our pickups. We couldn't just run out and start shooting stuff. We had to, there's a certain amount of cost implication in hiring an Arri again, and insurance, and so it just makes you slightly less mobile and flexible. So it was just nice just to shrug that all off and just to be completely free, and just to make another set of little trash films that were fun. I'll post them on the Facebook
definitely, because I think they're really interesting. Those are nice sort of ones with your boys kind of on the beach and stuff like that. Kind of interesting.
It was nice. They were fun to do, and it was kind of fun to make stuff that's a bit more influenced by avant-garde filmmakers, I suppose. I guess I was thinking of like Andrew Cotting and the animator like Norman McLaren, like old school kind of avant-garde filmmakers. Jonas Mekas as well, which I love that documentary that was on iPlayer about him recently. And so, taking just inspiration from people who are just using their immediate surroundings as material and just making little throwaway trash film. I keep calling them trash films, they're not, but it is that immediate thing of throwing films together fast in a way that you would with paints. If you're a painter, you can just smash things together quickly. And in film we always have to storyboard and go through 10 versions of a screenplay, and but with this it was fun. We could just kind of mash them together, and the film's done. It was good, really good fun.
Fantastic.
Nice little kind of creative project.
Yeah, for sure.
Never wait for permission. You just have to start.
Mark and I have been following, how would you describe it, Mark? Chaos magic? Chaos magic? Chaos magic? Chaos magic? Chaos magic? actually really got to do a Q&A for a film festival tonight. So
well, there we go. So
there we go. Funnily enough, so because I've got to do the tech check because I had a weird, I had a kind of slightly sad experience when we did the Dublin Q&A because I did it over Zoom. And it failed right at the last minute for some reason. They just couldn't get it bumped into the cinema. So I'm doing a tech check for a film festival screening in Falmouth in Cornwall in about 20 minutes. So
mate, you better go and do your tech
yeah,
check.
Yeah, do my tech check.
And then microphone check.
Exactly. Can you hear me? And then tomorrow we're in Cambridge for a film festival screening. So hopefully some people turn up.
Good stuff. I did see on Instagram you made a lovely little ad, which I thought was great, which was kind of your upcoming screenings, which I thought was really good. I thought it was really, really nice because it makes a massive difference. And any indie filmmakers, you take it as good advice is that just being able to make these little videos and these little kind of promos that go on things like Instagram and Facebook. The visuals of it is just amazing. I thought they were great.
I mean, I actually took kind of a slither of the film and then just put all the dates over the top because what I was realizing was that weirdly from the film festivals last year, I've never really played around with Instagram at all, but films like the film festival last year, someone on Instagram tagged my totally dormant Instagram account, and overnight I had 200 people following me, and I was like, oh my god, I've got to do something with this, haven't I? So I've actually been paying a bit more attention to Instagram, trying to get slightly younger than the Facebook group, which I've been
but it is true. It is really engaging. Like, even though I've seen the film a bunch of times, and but it was just I was immediately alerted to how much more engaged I was than it being just a post of you saying there's a screening tonight.
Come and see the film. Absolutely.
Seeing little clips, seeing a bit of the film, seeing the dates come up, it just looked cool. There's a soundtrack.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm glad it worked, and let's just hope it means that people go and actually watch the film now.
All right, mate. Well, I'll let you go. Go and do your sound check.
Thanks very much, Mark. Lovely to see you. Yeah, thank you, listeners.
See you, listeners.
See you next time.
Follow us and join the cult today. On Instagram, we are DIY_cinema_cult. Seek out the DIY Cinema Cult group on Facebook, and don't forget to press those like and subscribe buttons and follow us.